Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Appreciate y'all joining in on this webinar we've pulled together. I know we're going to see many of y'all here in, I guess, just a few weeks at the Hotel Roanoke for the local programs workshop. But there was a few timely matters we thought would be worthwhile spending a few minutes with you guys just to go over, introduce some newer topics to you, some new tools, things that you might want to implement on some of your locally measured projects. And even if not just locally measured projects, maybe some of your BDOT measured projects and others that we may be helping you out on. So, we're going to try to commit to everybody. We're going to have you out of here by no later than 2 o'clock. We may be out much earlier than that. Like I said, we don't have a ton of information to go over with you guys, but we wanted to spend a few quick minutes with you looking at some of the things that we thought were pretty timely. So, got a group of presenters pulled together for this time. There's probably be some other folks that are going to be joining here in the next few minutes, but to be respectful of everybody's time, for you folks that joined here at 1 o'clock, we want to go ahead and get started. So let me look real quick and see if our district engineer is on, and he is. So I'm going to stop for a second and just kind of turn the mic over to Ken King. Many of you guys know our district engineer, Ken, has some open remarks, and then we'll dive into some of this data that we're going to share with you. So Ken?
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Just really wanted to welcome everyone to this quick touch point. Like Anthony shared, we're excited to have the opportunity to physically connect with everyone here in the next few weeks as we get to the local programs workshop taking place at Hotel Roanoke. And so we wanted to use an opportunity here to just touch on some tools and various activities that are going on. And a couple of the things you're going to hear on the screen, at least I think each of you see that on the agenda, one is project portfolio. That has been a topic we have talked about a good bit in VDOT, and if you haven't heard about it, you're probably going to hear about it. And it is, while we have our external performance measures of dashboard, looking at on time, on budget, we have our sustained performance that we work with, all of the great partnership we share with each of our localities and all of you that are helping us deliver this large program. While those will always be there, we are always looking for more leading indicators of project health. And that's what I would say that the project portfolio typically is tools and leading indicators around how a project is executing. And so you're going to hear about that, and it looks at issues simply like, how long has it been currently in PE, and when are we projecting the close of PE, and other types of near-term milestones and benchmarks that really, if all of that goes well, then the overall on-time, on-budget execution of the project will go well. I think the other piece that we've looked at is some commissioner really pushing us on just overall project duration, from the time that a project is first conceived and born and comes into our program, that there's some expectation that with urgency and purpose, we're going to move that project through to execution and have it implemented, and he is certainly pushing that we always keep very aggressive and forward-leaning plans of schedule and execution on those projects. And this project of portfolio, these tools are all there to help us, to use those measures to make sure that each of our projects, one, there's no child left behind or no lost sheep. We don't have any projects that kind of get lost in the mix, and that they are all moving toward execution, and also a recognition that not every project, some of our larger scale projects, it's that much more important that we keep a project of a large scale on schedule, because that drives such a large part of the funding allocation and cash balance. All of those issues are very, very important for our health of our overall program. So you'll hear more about that, and I think Anthony's preparing you for some of the comments and tools and things that you may hear at the upcoming local programs workshop. I know we folded our typical annual gathering, in a little bit different fashion because of the statewide meeting taking place. So part of this is probably a prime the pump, if you will, on some of the things you may hear at the local programs workshop coming up. So I look very forward to seeing each of you and physically being able to connect. I love tools this tool of like Microsoft Teams and all of our virtual connection opportunities, but there's nothing like being able to be face to face with one another and have time to just engage and have conversations. So I really look forward to seeing each of you there. And Anthony, I appreciate the opportunity to just kick things off and say hello to everyone. Look forward to seeing you in a few weeks. I'll hand it back to you.
All right. Appreciate it, Ken. And again, thanks everybody for giving up some time this afternoon. I'm going to now turn it over to Tommy DeJulie. And many of you guys know Tommy. He's one of our district engineers. He's also our district project development engineer over project development. And so, Tommy, I believe you're going to share, I'm going to share my screen differently here in a second, but you're going to walk through just a little bit more on the portfolio and some of the columns that are in that tool. So if you want to get started, I'm gonna change up what I'm sharing here on the screen, and there we go. Hopefully you guys are seeing it now.
All right. Yeah. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And yeah, hopefully you might want to zoom in. I'm not sure if everybody can see the columns there, Anthony, but yeah, we'll sort of walk through this. As Ken mentioned, this is really meant to be a tool to sort of, like he mentioned, some leading indicators to sort of monitor how projects are progressing. And so you'll see the columns that are highlighted in blue. Of course, this is a data set of all the projects in our 6-year improvement program. But if you look at the columns in blue, the first three, you'll know those are sort of the flags, if you will, that the portfolio is trying to identify some of these key issues. So columns I, J, and K, carryover, backlog, actually, I guess through L. So backlog phases and carryover, sort of the same thing. Those are phases basically that were planned to be done in a prior fiscal year that had not been completed. So getting back to Ken's, comment about no projects left behind. So this is a way to sort of track these projects that, may be, red on dashboard for award that should have been maybe awarded, last year or the year before, still haven't gotten to that point. So just to make sure that we're not losing sight of them, we're tracking those here, flagging them to sort of keep them front and center and keep them moving. If you move over to column M, it's noted as PE slow progress. It's really a flag for how long is it taking, based on our schedules, how long are we predicting it to take to get to scoping. Currently that's flagged at 2 years. So if we scroll down this list, you'll see some projects that are flagged for PE slow progress that basically is indicating that we're planning to, our schedule is showing that it's going to take 2 years to get to scoping, which is, a little bit further than what we would typically expect. Very similarly, on the next column N, the construction slow progress, and quite honestly, I would really term that slow progress towards construction is really what it is doing. And that's flagging the time based on our schedules, particular project schedule, how long it's taking to get from PE authorization to advertisement. And the flags are set at 4 years right now for a tier 1 project and 5 years for a tier 2 project. So you'll see any of the projects that are flagged there in that column. Basically, the schedules are indicating that we're predicting it's going to take more than the 4 years for tier 1 or 5 years for tier 2 to get to advertisement. And as Ken mentioned, I think this is a good tool for us to see some of these things, preemptively, if you will, to, be able to, focus on the projects that may have an issue or need some help getting off the ground or getting to a decision or what have you. So those are some of those leading indicators, if you will, to try to identify, some projects that maybe they aren't moving at the pace that we would all hope them to be moving at. If you move over to the next 4 columns are really about planned work. So you'll see FY25 scoping, and then the 3 columns for the new phase starts for PE right away and construction. So those are flags that are just flagged based on what we are, based on the schedules, what we're expecting to happen in this coming fiscal year. And so again, these aren't like bad flags or anything. They're just noting that That scoping, for example, on the one project that's flagged there is planned for this fiscal year. PE starts, right away phase starts, and construction starts. Again, sort of like a book of work of what we're expecting to deliver this fiscal year. So that's about it. There is more data in the spreadsheet. You know, it's got the schedules in there. And again, if you guys are familiar with PWA and the scheduling system, we have our current dates, which are sort of I say that they can flexible or movable, or they're dynamic as we accomplish tasks. You know, those schedules can move in and out a little bit. That's what this portfolio is based on, is the current schedule, which is really should be the planned, you know, the team that's working on the project. That's the planned execution, if you will, as opposed to like the dashboard dates, which are fairly static. So some other good data in the portfolio, but I really just wanted to sort of highlight those flags, the blue columns, to which is sort of what we'll be looking at to help monitor and try to keep some of these projects moving along. So, Anthony, that's about all I had, unless you or others have any questions.
No, I think that's good. I'll just add that, you know, that right now I don't believe the locals have access to this. This is not like a public facing tool that you guys can access. What I would encourage y'all to do is, you know, if perhaps this has piqued your interest and you're like, hey, I wonder, you know, where my project stands. You know, obviously you guys should know your current schedules, but, you know, reach out to your local project coordinators here at VDOT, which is now Adam Chesnowski, David Thompson, and we have a new LAP project coordinator who just came on board 3 days ago, named Roy Nestor, who'll be working with some of you localities. And so I would encourage y'all to maybe set up some time with those folks to maybe look at this portfolio in relation to your projects. Again, this time right now was not intended to take a super deep dive and look at row by row or locality by locality. But we really just wanted to make you guys familiar with what is a somewhat new terminology for us here and within the agency. This portfolio has been discussed now for a little over a year, I guess. And just in full disclosure, you know, some of our folks had a little bit of I'll just admit, an allergic reaction at first, like, wait, what do you mean my project got flagged? And like Tommy just said, some of these are just flags saying, hey, this is the expected phase authorization for the next fiscal year. So kind of what is the book of work, so to speak, for the next fiscal year. What this allows us to do agency-wide is to better align our funding with the actual schedules of the projects. And so we're allowed to better strategize and come up with a financial plan when we're committing to projects and committing to duration. So I'll just stop there and say, you guys probably, at least the external folks, do not have access to the chat box. I would just encourage y'all to reach out to your local project coordinators here at VDOT, or me as well, and I'll be glad to follow up with you and talk about this. We just want you guys to get familiar with the terminology. And so if you guys start hearing some of this being discussed, especially here in a few weeks at the local programs workshop, you'll have some familiarity with what is being discussed. So with that, and Tommy, unless you have anything else to say on this topic, I think we'll move on.
I think that's good. Thanks, Anthony.
All right, thank you. Let me get back to the PowerPoint here, and hopefully that's switched. Alex, I see you on screen. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my PowerPoint now? Awesome. All right, so that was the project portfolio. Again, each fiscal year we're going to have one of those moving forward. It kind of gives us our book of work for the year. Also flags those backlog projects. So that was the first thing we want to make sure we cover with you guys. The next topic on here is some updated cost estimating tools. You guys are familiar. Our agency has gone through a lot of time and effort and energy over the last many months, if not years, trying to kind of improve our cost estimating tools and now make those available to the locals as well. So Adam and Alex have put some thoughts and some slides together. So guys, I'm going to keep on sharing my screen. Whenever y'all are ready to go to the next slide, just say next slide and I'll click onto it. So I'll turn it over to y'all.
That sounds great, Anthony. Thanks a lot. And again, I'm Alex Price. I'm the Salem District location and design engineer. And again, just wanted to introduce you all to, at a very high level, some new estimating tools. So at least you'll remember the name. Maybe if you are attending some work or some of the sessions in the urban workshop meeting here in a few weeks, you'll at least know that you've heard about them. So our central office cost estimating office has rolled out 3 additional cost estimating tools here in the last few months. They're for VDOT users, they're for our consultants, and certainly they're for our local partners to help enhance everyone's ability to enhance our cost estimating practices. I mentioned consultants. I know a lot of you have consultants developing estimates for you, but I did want to just stress that they are aware of these new tools, and likely they're probably using them already. Anyway, the first two are conceptual estimating tools developed early this summer. The first one is highlighted on the screen. It's our new pre-quantity tool. This tool is a major quantity tool that's used to prepare conceptual estimates. It's intended for pre-scoping, scoping, level estimates, including all of our funding applications. It's based on limited project definitions that you may have or lack or may lack thereof for your projects. And it's based on a design level and quantity understanding between 0 and 30%. The purpose of the tool is to help us identify major cost items. It's to summarize project cost per phase, PE, right-of-way, and construction. Summarize construction costs for specific disciplines, MOT, roadway, hydraulics. And, it's really an opportunity for us to be consistent with VDOT estimating guidance and policy provided in our cost estimating manual. Anthony, if you want to continue to the next slide, I'll introduce our next tool. So the next tool is called our Similar Project Estimate by Cost Category. This tool uses a searchable archive of bid tabulations for projects that have been awarded by VDOT. It uses relevant and useful similar project information to help develop an estimate. Essentially, it's you're retrieving project information using similar historical projects. You're selecting predefined filters like project type, location, road classifications, and it only contains construction and maintenance related projects. So again, this tool, you are looking at very similar projects that you're wanting to estimate. We need to understand when we're using this tool that costs are based on low bids. Again, I mentioned earlier that they're based on historical projects and the winning bids. So the other part of this tool is cost or actual with no indexing. So you need to be mindful of that. And also, it does not account for project-specific variances. When you're using this tool, you really need to have similar projects. So it's somewhat limited, but still a very useful tool. All right, Anthony. The next tool is our modernized statewide bid tab query. This tool has just been released back in August. It's publicly accessible tool. We've had issues with getting access to this tool outside of VDOT, but it is publicly accessible. And it's for, bid tabs, which and it has the same look and feel of our legacy bid tab query that we've used in the past, but it has several enhanced features. Some of those features include pay item identification. So when we're trying to identify a pay item, what this does, or what the enhanced feature does, it allows us to use old and new pay items. So that's a very useful tool to us. Recently, we just switched over from old pay item codes to new pay item codes. So that allows us to better find the pay items that we're trying to do a query on. The other feature, it improves user interface, which is with what is called smart features. And until you start diving into the estimate tool, you may not get an idea of what I'm speaking of there. But it's again, it's a user. It just has an improved user interface that allows this tool to be used a lot easier than the past tool. You have the ability to scatter plot your results. And you also have the ability to export features into an Excel spreadsheet. So that's another advantage. The applications, of course, is to develop specific cost or unit prices. And the other feature or the other application is determining cost. It determines cost categories, which drive individual project costs. So it will pull up a contract, and if you want to sort your pay items by how much it cost, you can do that, and you can see. We refer to 80% of a cost is 20% of our pay items, right? So you can see, you can use this tool to order those pay items, so it's easier to see those 20% or those items that make up 20% of your project cost. Next slide, Anthony. Just want to highlight the web page where you can find all of our estimating tools. I'm sure you all probably have links to these, but we have in the rectangles, the red rectangles, the 3 tools that we just talked about, the similar project estimates by cost category, the statewide bid tab query tool, and the user guide that's highlighted there. And we also have the pre-quantity tool, and it's version 1.3 as of today. All right, the other tool that I know you're very familiar with is our cost estimate workbook. I just wanted to highlight, and all of y'all are probably aware of this, but just wanted to highlight it today that we do have a new version that came out in June. This was the version that we were using during the development of our smart scale applications. It uses the inflation tables for FY25. And again, it's required for funding applications and through project development. And again, it's also on the same link that I just provided in the previous slide. All right, next slide, Anthony. That might be it.
I believe that was it.
Let me highlight before we move on to environmental. Some of you had the opportunity to attend our cost estimating summits in the past. I was able to attend one of the 2, but it's very, very valuable information that gets relayed to all of our folks who are developing estimates. And just want to highlight one that is coming up in 2025. It's from March 10th, 11th through the 12th. And it's going to be held at the Hotel Madison up in Harrisonburg, Virginia this year. So, Anthony, that's all I had. I appreciate the time, everyone.
Good deal. Appreciate you, Alex.
Anthony, can I add something quickly there too?
Sure.
Yes, Adam, please do.
And there for localities, a lot of these tools are designed to help us upfront to get a project estimate when we don't have as much information. That's becoming more and more important as it's becoming tougher and tougher in the funding types to come back later for additional funds. We know Smart Scale has those thresholds as well for rescoring, but we're finding it's becoming tighter even on the revenue sharing and TA side as well. So it's even more vital to get a good estimate up front.
Yep. Good point. Good point. So appreciate you guys, and y'all hang tight. And I'm looking at the time, and so what I'm thinking we'll do is we'll go ahead and finish out the rest of these remarks from both environmental and construction, and then if we have some time left before 2 o'clock, we'll open it up to the group for any Q&A that you guys want to do. And so with that, Robin, I know I saw you on earlier, so I'm going to go ahead and go to your first slide and turn it over to you to talk about environmental commitments. You're muted. Still muted.
Sorry,
There you
I
go.
had to go in a different way and it's not working well with me today.
Gotcha.
I'm Robin Simpson, the environmental manager for Salem District, and I wanted to talk to y'all a little bit. You're going to hear more about it at the workshop about some of the commitments that are coming through for environmental and how they're going to be handled with some of the locality projects now. LAD sent out an email to all localities on August 9th to discuss what these changes are going to be. So what I wanted to kind of go over was a kind of a highlight. You might see some of these same slides at the workshop, but just so you know, environmental commitments are made throughout project development. They can happen at any time. They can be part of the NEPA process. They come about as part of your water quality conditions. And they can also be part of your T&E biological opinion if you have to do that. And you can have some that will take place during all phases of construction as well. So they are very important. So Anthony, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So every year, we, as part of the 23 CFR 771.109B1, localities are responsible for implementing these environmental commitments on your projects. So as oversight that VDOT has for FHWA, we go through every year, basically at central office, and look through, we pull various projects at random in every district and take a look to see if this is being met. So they look at projects that are federally aided projects with budgets greater than $500,000 and with construction completed the previous calendar year. So once they select these projects, they go to the locality and ask questions. And what they found out in 2022's questionnaires that there were no commitments in any of the projects that they looked at. So as a result of that, because there's not saying every project should have some, but a few should have at least one or two, they decided to, environmental and the local assistance division decided to modify their approach to this. So what they're going to do is one locally administered project per district is going to be looked at, and they're going to ask for all the project document files at that point. So if you want to change the slide. So this is where we are now. We're going to ask for these project files. We're going to make a determination for one project in each district. And we're going to determine whether adequate project delivery systems are in place to support the identified environmental commitments. If they're not there, the locality will be subject to a functional review for the next 3 calendar years. Also, at the conclusion of the functional review, they will send a report detailing the commitments and the locality's project file documentation to FHWA. That should be LAD, sorry, that's a typo, and the locality. So we did ask, there are some localities that are not doing any of their own environmental, and how would that work? And they were going to double check this, but I think that if we are actually doing all the environmental work for you minus a permit, because we cannot get permits, then those would not be projects that we would necessarily pull to take a look at. But they were going to double check to see how they actually wanted to work that out with FHWA. Next slide. So what exactly is an environmental commitment? You know, some people may not know. Anytime you have a time of year restriction, if you get something saying you need fish removal from cofferdams, a lot of the permits, if you read them and there's special conditions, there's flagging of jurisdictional areas and demarcation of avoidance areas that must be done in wetlands and sometimes in cultural resources to be able to continue work or even start work. On the hazmat side, there could be special provisions and special commitments for treatment of asbestos material. Bat and bird inventories prior to demolition of bridges or buildings. Pre-construction notifications for trout before you begin work, and anything that the Army Corps of Engineers or DEQ adds to your permit conditions is usually at the very top of your permit or in your letter telling you you must meet these conditions, or anything that's listed in your biological opinion or in any response you get back from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is considered a commitment at that point in time. So that's just kind of a real quick overview. There'll be more at the workshop, and then hopefully have a few more answers on some things, but I just wanted to bring that up so that you would kind of have an idea of what was going on before we actually start going into this.
All right, thanks, Robin. And if you guys are hopefully out there jotting down some questions, here in a few moments, we'll open it up to a little Q&A time. So with that, let me go to the next slide here. Andrew Kale, who many of you guys know, works on our construction side of the house. I'm just going to share for just a few moments some of the hot topics, some of the changes, maybe some things he's seeing on the construction side that might be able to help you guys out. So Andrew, turn over to you.
Hey, thanks, Anthony. Just real quickly, I wanted to offer that construction, we have some help now from our consultant partners. So got a couple of inspectors helping us out, trying to catch up on these compliance reviews. So what our plans are going forward, we will be doing compliance reviews in conjunction with the reimbursement request as they come in. And we're going to try to do an initial compliance review somewhere around the pre-con in the first week or two after, to make sure all the submittals are in. And then the first pay app, the first reimbursement request, following that has some construction items on it. We'll do one then and take that as an opportunity to make sure we're getting off on the right foot. We're keeping daily, work reports and verifying payment. And then we'll do one every reimbursement request period after that. And we're also, you're also going to see us on the state funded locality maintained projects, not as much, depending on the scope and size, but we'll go back and catch one or two of those. The requirements aren't quite the same, but mainly what we're looking for is, adherence to the LAP manual for the state maintained, the federally funded. We're looking to make sure you're adhering to your quality assurance plan, and we're also there to be a resource to help get your records in order if there's some things you need help cleaning up. But I do have help. There's 3 of us now, so you'll see more of us out there, and it will be pretty consistent along with the reimbursement request. And we're going to try to turn these things around fairly timely. For any of you out there that have been involved in the federal FHWA cap review, that's kind of the way we've modeled our compliance review after the cap review. So, we will take 1 or 2 items, a line item during a reimbursement request, and then request records for that item and make sure those are in good shape and get those things knocked out as quickly as possible. So just want to let you know, you'll see more of us from this point going forward. So that's all I have, Anthony. Thank you.
Good deal, Andrew. Thank you very much. So with that, we got a few minutes left here. And in full disclosure, our team systems don't play real nice with external folks. So you guys can't use the chat box. I'm not even sure you can raise your hand, but I know you can unmute and share if you guys have a question. So we're just going to open up now for the next few minutes. If anybody has a question about either project portfolio, any of the updated estimated cost estimating tools, anything Robin talked about, or environmental commitments, or anything that Andrew just shared about construction compliance review. So does anybody have anything you want to pose to the group while you have us all here? Well, I'm going to take the silence means that our group of presenters did an awesome job and no questions. But if you do think of any after you get off the call here, or perhaps you feel more comfortable speaking kind of, one-on-one, again, please A, reach out to your project coordinators, B, reach out to Andrew if it's during, construction type items. You can always give me a call. I see Jay guys on as well. You guys can get in touch with us. If you want to bring those questions with you to the Hotel Roanoke here in a few weeks, we'd love to sit down with you, maybe have a breakfast, lunch, talk some more. But some of these things you guys are going to be hearing about during those sessions. But we wanted to introduce some of these topics to you because there's been a lot moving pieces between when we met with you guys back in June and what's coming up here in the next few weeks. So we may routinely do this type of kind of real quick pop-in webinar throughout the year in the future as things come up. Hopefully you guys found it beneficial. And again, thank y'all for joining this afternoon. I will pause again for a few more seconds, see if there's any more questions or a question. All right, hearing none. Thank y'all very much for logging in, and y'all have a good rest of your afternoon, and we'll see you here in a few weeks.